think there's something really special that happens when you become an adult. And I also said this on Sean's show, where you start to see your parents as humans, but where they also see you as an adult. And I think that was probably the last thing that needed to happen for my father and I, where it's like, I don't really need, like, I don't physically need him for anything. There wasn't anything that he held over me. Like, I don't need money. I don't need to, come home on spring break or whatever it might be. It's like, no, we are two fully autonomous, independent people who are going to choose to have this relationship. And I think that that's so powerful. I think that's why marriage is so powerful, because this is like the person you're choosing. This is not somebody, a family that you were born into. It's not blood, but you are choosing this. And I kind of see that in a way with, a relationship that's like my dad's and mine, where I'm making an active choice to try to fix this and make it better. And I think taking away that, like, I need you or I'm dependent upon you is really, really helpful in that regard. I think that's the key to first setting boundaries in my mind. Like, why the boundaries have to be in place. And I think people are really great at setting boundaries, but it's hard to know when to kind of like remove the wall. And for me, it's like, have I done the work to put myself in a situation where I feel strong enough, secure enough, financially independent enough to be able to have this relationship and know that, yeah, it might not be perfect, but I can handle it and you can handle it. We're adults now. So I think that's kind of where we're at. So we're interested to see how the conversation goes.
How do you prepare yourself to have an uncomfortable conversation like that? Are you nervous?
Not really.
Really?
It's funny. I am really bad at confrontation. Confrontation is really hard for me. I'm like a major people pleaser, but I'm pretty good at like heart-to-hearts.
Huh.
So if it's like angry and volatile, I'm like a wimp. I just melt. Like, there are situations where even recently, like things I've been talking about with my team, where it's, people have requested meetings or X, Y, Z, and I'm like, that's not a room that I should be in. Like, I know that I will agree to something, say something that I don't actually want to do or stand behind because I am desperate to like make a situation better or fix something. And it's just like, I can't. I just know myself too well. And that's something I'm actively working on. And that might come from being a child actor in Hollywood and the fact that your entire job is to try to like mold yourself to please people, and also with my family and how chaotic it was. But confrontation is very, very hard. But I know myself. So, but in this kind of situation where it's like, again, there's no there's nothing to be angry about now. It's like, now we're just going to try to put the pieces together so we can have a great life together.
What's something that you're hoping to understand from that conversation?
One thing I would love to understand, I guess, is kind of this is just a question I've always had, is like, what did my dad expect out of parenthood, or what did he want? Because it was never really clear. To me, it was always very clear with my mom. She like always wanted to have kids, was very intentional about the way that she parented, is still very intentional with the way that she treats us today as adults. And I never really understood with my dad. Like, it was never, he was in and out. I always hate sort of questions like this because they're good questions, but I'm always like, how much of it is my story to tell and how much is his story to tell? That's very difficult. But as a kid, it's like, you weren't always there, like physically and emotionally. And it was more about you than it was about like the family unit and your children. And so were we the driving force, or was it something else? It's just like, that's always been a kind of a lingering question for me.
Yeah. I think it could be scary to be like a parent.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so I think that's probably a lot of it.
Yeah. And, their marriage was not great. And so they didn't have, I don't think they had the right, I don't think he had the right partners to support him in that. I don't think my mom had the right partner, which obviously makes it hard. So there was just a myriad of factors. And he's become a much better partner post-divorce and post us being adults, which is unfortunate that it didn't happen when we were, younger, but it's still like, life doesn't get easier when you grow up. Your family unit doesn't become suddenly less complicated. Like, we're still dealing with the fact that my brother is still a schizophrenic, and we deal with that every single day. And my dad has become more and more involved in that, which is so incredible, because now my mom has another person that she can lean on when she has been the primary advocate and caregiver for years and years and years. And that kind of like fell on me in a way, and my dad wasn't involved and now he is. And so I think it's your family will continue evolving and changing and growing, and life is always full of challenges and things that you have to grow from and overcome. And so it's like, if you can rebuild that foundation or just give it some strength going into that, I think it's like better late than never. And I'm grateful that it's happening now, at least.
I think the idea of taking control of your life and taking maximal responsibility for where you are is really one of the most defining factors in like whether or not you're somewhat successful in your own regard or not successful. How do you think you were able to like face those challenges when you were younger, but still go towards the light side rather than towards the other way around? Like was it like you said, how you faced consequences as a kid, so you were forced to take responsibility for where you were at?
I think that's a big part of it, just because it was ingrained in my childhood and basically how I was disciplined and punished. So it just kind of became, punished is a strong word because I was never really...
What was like a consequence that you paid?
Okay, I've never told this story. I once stole from a Goodwill. I went on like a shoplifting spree.
Did you actually? How old were you?
Like 8,
okay,
probably. And I
funny, like this is a few months ago.
Did you know how bad it was, what you were doing, or were you kind of just like,
I mean, like I sort of knew, but I was like, it's a Goodwill. Like it's not that big of a deal. But we always
they give their money to charity if you're going to take from anything.
I know. But I was like, it's so cheap. But we like always shopped at thrift stores growing up. And we still do, but my mom like furnished our entire house with like consignment stores and Craigslist, and Alex and I basically furnished our entire house also with like Facebook Marketplace, so it runs in the family now. But we would always go to Goodwill, and I don't know why I like slipped these things into my pocket, but there were like these big like pieces of like costume jewelry that were like sitting up on the counter, and I was just like, I'll take these. And my mom found out about it. And first of all, I think it really helps to have such a strong relationship with your kids and for your kids to respect the parent so much, because the moment that my mom walked into my room and I saw it on her face, I was like, I'm doomed. And I was so disappointed in myself because I could see that I had disappointed her. But I had to, call them and say, like, she gave me the phone number and I had to call and say, I took necklaces from you. And then she had to drive me over and I had to walk in by myself and say, I'm really sorry. And I was like, shitting bricks, basically, of like terrified of like, am I going to go to jail or whatever it was. But I had to go in and be like, I'm really, really sorry. And do like have that uncomfortable conversation with this Goodwill, manager who did not care, was like, I'm being paid by the hour. Why do I care if you stole a couple necklaces? But for me as a kid, I think I was probably 7 or 8, it was terrifying. And that's the example that always like sticks out. And I'm sure that there were more. I don't remember what the consequence was, but there were things when I wouldn't be. Oh, this was a big one. If I wasn't prepared, she wouldn't catch me, basically. Like I would do. I was in gymnastics. I did dance. I played the violin for a little bit, and I did like piano and singing. And I had to. You have to study before all that, or you have to work on your routine, or you have to stretch. And we had like my mom had gotten all these mats for our garage. And so I could like practice my gymnastics. And if I came unprepared, there was no like, oh, she was really busy with school or whatever. It was like, yeah, sorry, you weren't prepared. So you have to go on stage and do your violin recital and you don't know the song. And it was just like the natural consequence of that. There was no like, she was like, yeah, you want to do this, sing the song, you want to, do this dance recital, whatever it may be. I'm not going to keep you in line to put you on a schedule to make sure that you're ready. You just have to do it. And if you don't, then you're going to get up on stage and you're going to be unprepared in front of people that you respect.
Embarrassment is really like the best learning lesson out there.
Oh, yeah. And in both of those, I was embarrassed. Yeah. And then you're embarrassed in front of your parent that you respect so much. And then because it was so ingrained in me, I was so disappointed in myself. So I was like, I know I can be better. I'm better than this. So I think that probably started it from a young age. But also I think like, I don't know if it's a personality trait or something, but I was always, and it's so weird to say this, like, now like I look at young kids and I'm like, are you guys having thoughts that are like this? But I remember being super young, like being somewhere in like the 8 to 11 range and being like, just looking around at my family and my world and going, this is not normal. Like this is very dysfunctional, and intentionally being like, this isn't what I want for my life. It was like so clear how dysfunctional and how unhappy it was. I think I was really blessed to, see great examples of families and, parents who really loved each other. And kids who seem to have really great home lives. And I was like, I want that. Like, I know it's out there. And so I think from a young age, I I knew that my situation was not normal and I didn't want it to continue. I never wanted to feel like that was normal. So I was always kind of thinking about breaking a cycle.